Keynote Speaker Dr. Bauram Bhattarai, former Prime Minister, Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Shishir Khanal, Honorable Minister for Finance, Mr. Sorim Wagle, former Deputy Prime Ministers and Ministers, Honorable Chairperson, and members of the International Relations and Tourism Committee of the Federal Parliament. I don't see he's present here. Honorable Vice Chairman of the National Planning Commission, respected Foreign Secretary and Secretaries, heads of security agencies, Excellencies, distinguished guests, both present here and those joining us virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, Namaskar and good evening. It is my pleasure to warmly welcome you all to the 5th edition of the Professor YADU NATH KHANAL lecture series. I am Lok Bahadur Chhetri, spokesperson and head of the Public Diplomacy Division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We are deeply honored by your presence this evening. Before proceeding, we begin with the national anthem. I would like to request all the guests to please rise.
थुङ्गा फुलका हामी एउटै माला नेपाली सार्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली सायो थुङ्गा फुलका हामी एउटै माला नेपाली सार्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली प्रकृतिका कोटि कोटि सम्पदाको आचल वीरहरूका रगतले स्वतन्त्र ज्ञान भूमि शान्ति भूमि तराई पहाड हिमाल अखण्ड यो प्यारो हाम्रो मातृभूमि नेपाल बहु जाति भाषा धर्म संस्कृति छन् विशाल अग्रगामी राष्ट्र हाम्रो जय जय नेपाल.
Thank you. Please be seated. Distinguished guests, as you know, this lecture series is organized to pay tribute to Professor YADU NATH KHANAL and to promote thoughtful discussion on important matters relating to foreign policy, diplomacy, and international affairs. The theme of this 5th edition, as you know, is Foreign Policy of Nepal, Navigating Geopolitical and Geoeconomic Trends. This theme is particularly relevant for Nepal when we are witnessing geopolitical shifts, evolving geoeconomic realities, rapid technological advancement, and a changing international order. We are especially honored to have with us this evening Dr. Bauram Bhattarai, former Prime Minister of Nepal, who will deliver the keynote lecture. Before we proceed further, allow me to briefly outline today's program. First of all, an introductory video covering YADU NATH KHANAL lecture series will be played. Then the Foreign Secretary will deliver his welcome remarks. Dr. Bauram Bhattarai will then deliver the keynote presentation. The lecture presentation will be followed by an interactive question and answer session. The Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs will deliver his concluding remarks. The program will conclude with the presentation of a memento and a group photograph. Distinguished guests, may I now request your kind attention to the introductory video on the YADU NATH KHANAL lecture series. I request the technical team to kindly play the video.
Born in Tanahu in August 1913, Professor YADU NATH KHANAL served as Nepal's Foreign Secretary twice and as Ambassador to India, China, and the United States. As a profound diplomat, thinker, writer, and scholar, Professor KHANAL intellectualized Nepal's foreign policy during its formative years to effectively navigate through complex geopolitical times.
मलाई के लाग्छ भने कूटनीति भनेको चाहिँ अत्यन्त गहिरो विषय यो यसका चाहिँ लिङ्केजहरू हुन्छ प्रायोरिटिजहरू हुन्छ पहिले अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ हुनु पर्यो आफ्नो नेसनल हिस्ट्री हैन त्यसैले चाहिँ नि यो परराष्ट्र नीति चाहिँ नि स्वतन्त्र रूपमा चाहिँ नि गर्न त्यसका चाहिँ अनेक किसिमको कमजोरी आउन सक्छ पहिले चाहिँ नि आफूले आफ्नो इतिहास अनि आफ्नो नेसनल अब्जेक्टिभ के हो
Professor Khanal played a significant role in institutionalizing Nepal's foreign service. His vision and insights continue to inspire generations of diplomats.
So what YADU NATH KHANAL said and wrote in his books and speeches are still very relevant because geography does not change. Power relationships do not change much. So what he said as fundamentals of Nepal foreign policy are still fundamentally correct today.
In 2022, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs launched this lecture series as a tribute to his distinguished service to the nation.
Professor YADU NATH KHANAL rightly states that trying to keep abreast of international law is a worthy goal of Nepal. Both national and international conditions demand this, unquote.
Professor Khanal used to say, we cannot communicate with the outside world effectively unless we communicate with ourselves. I think we are doing just that through this lecture series.
Even a preliminary reflection of the situation suggests how central was the changing relationship between United States, Soviet Union and China in shaping the relationship between Nepal and India at a time when Professor Khanal was in charge of Nepal's diplomacy in the 1960s.
It is often said that Prithvinarayan Shaha unified Nepal, Bhanubhakta Acharya standardized Nepali language, and YADU NATH KHANAL intellectualized Nepal's foreign policy.
The domestic affairs of each country should be decided by its own people, and the regional matters should be discussed collectively.
Professor YADU NATH KHANAL lecture series stands as a tribute to the pioneering legacy and enduring contributions of Professor Khanal, and his insights not only shaped our foreign policy but also intellectualized it while laying the foundation for a professional, committed and competent foreign service and its institutionalization during its formative years.
Professor Khanal's vision and his understanding of the world and world around Nepal was one of the most inspiring, which shaped Nepal's foreign policy, and his vision continuously stays relevant in a world that's rapidly changing. Geopolitical dynamics, geoeconomic dynamics are shaping the world today, and that has had huge impact and potentially will have further impact in Nepal. And that vision and that inspiration of him will continuously shape Nepal's development diplomacy and Nepal's national prosperity and to safeguard Nepal's national interest. So we hope that this lecture series will provide us the knowledge and expertise and guidance from some of the best possible minds in Nepal and from abroad. And this allows us to understand what's happening to us, around us, from the perspective of people who have engaged in foreign policy themselves, who have been part of research and knowledge creation. This will further, we hope, will advance Nepal's foreign policy, our ability to conduct diplomacy abroad, and enhance Nepal's national interest.
Thank you. I now have the pleasure of inviting the respected Foreign Secretary, Mr. Amrit Bahadur Rai, to deliver his welcome remarks.
Esteemed keynote speaker and former Prime Minister Dr. Bauram Bhattarai, Honorable Foreign Minister, Honorable Minister for Finance, Honorable members of the Federal Parliament, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste and very good evening. On behalf of the Ministry, it is my distinct honor and privilege to warmly welcome you all to the 5th edition of the Professor YADU NATH KHANAL Lecture Series, a flagship event of the Ministry that has been organized annually since its inception in 2022. On this special occasion, I'd like to express our sincere appreciation to distinguished guests and all participants for accepting our invitation and joining us this evening. In this context, allow me to quote a few lines on foreign policy and diplomacy by Professor YADU NATH KHANAL. I quote, "Foreign policy is a difficult, serious, and sensitive subject, more than protocol and table manners, and more than information contained in cables in newspapers. And like any other subject, it demands special discipline." I unquote. Referring to our geographical location, he stated, "Nepal's foreign policy is an especially difficult matter, requiring sensitive historical and contemporary insight. It is more than anarchism." Similarly, he emphasized diplomacy is a discipline of great depth. It has linkages and priorities. We should understand our national history and national objective. We should take forward our diplomacy in an intensity of war. Distinguished guest, the Professor YADU NATH KHANAL Lecture Series stands as a tribute to the pioneering legacy and enduring intellectual contributions of Professor KHANAL. His immense contribution held shape and, as often said, intellectualized Nepal's foreign policy, while laying foundation on professional, specialized, and competent foreign service and its institutionalization during its formative years. Through this lecture series, we continue to draw inspiration from his originality, vision, wisdom, and sharpness of judgment and commitment to the nation. We've envisioned this platform as a forum for meaningful deliberations on the different dimensions of Nepal's foreign policy, as well as on contemporary issues, emerging trends in international relations and diplomacy. The lecture also seeks to offer fresh and relevant perspectives on foreign policy and diplomacy, thereby assisting Nepal's foreign policy practitioners in navigating complexity of ever-evolving geopolitical and geoeconomic landscape. Distinguished guest, Professor KHANAL was born in August 1913 in Tanahu district, now situated in Gandaki province, and his academic pursuits took him from Nepal to India to United Kingdom, where he studied Sanskrit, science, and English literature. And he thus represented a rare and remarkable confluence of classical scholarship, scientific temperament, and literary excellence. This unique combination found expression in both his writings and his diplomatic practice, shaping his distinctive approach to foreign policy and diplomacy. His diplomatic journey began in 1955 when he served as member secretary of Nepali delegation to Asian African Conference in Bandung, Indonesia. And he served twice as foreign secretary, first during 1961-62 and later during 1967 and 70. To this day, he remains the only Nepali ambassador to have served in all three major countries, India, China, and the United States. And Professor KHANAL was also a prolific writer. Through his diplomatic judgment and scholarly writings, he laid down important guidelines on how Nepal could pursue its vital national interest within the difficult circumstances of his time. His vast experiences, insightful observation, wisdom, and pragmatism continue to inspire succeeding generation of Nepali diplomats, intellectuals, and policymakers. Indeed, Professor Khanal may rightly be regarded as a veteran diplomat and one of the principal architects of modern Nepal's foreign policy. And he was a master strategist in understanding geopolitical currents and a skilled negotiator in unlocking diplomatic stalemates, and a fine craftsman in calibrating a precise tone and substance of diplomatic engagement. And his enduring message for a country like Nepal remains profoundly relevant. Foreign policy and diplomacy must rest on clarity, consistency, credibility, and coherence. This timeless mantra reminds us that the success lies in maintaining a delicate balance and exercising sound judgment as we navigate the evolving geopolitical and geoeconomic complexities of our time. Professor Khanal passed away in 2004, but his ideas, writings, and diplomatic legacy continue to guide Nepal's foreign policy perspective and practice. Distinguished guest, the contemporary international system is currently navigating an era of profound transition and unprecedented volatility. Traditional assumptions about the global order are being tested by the renewed great power contestation, the increasing interplay between geopolitics and geoeconomics, and weakening multilateral cooperation and growing competition for tech dominance, and competition over technological dominance, energy security, critical minerals, resilience, supply chains, strategic infrastructure, connectivity, and access to markets is increasingly influencing state behavior and reshaping regional and global dynamics. Against this backdrop, today's lecture on foreign policy of Nepal, navigating geopolitical and geoeconomic trends, provides a timely opportunity to reflect on Nepal's foreign policy and to explore how we navigate the evolving regional and international environment. In this regard, with us today, keynote speaker, Dr. Balram Bhattarai, former Prime Minister of Nepal, to share his insights, experience, and perspective on this important role. Dr. Bhattarai is a well-known public figure in Nepal. He is a writer, analyst, politician, and a former Prime Minister of Nepal, and he obtained his master's degree in planning from Social and Planning and Architecture School of Planning and Architecture in New Delhi in 1979, and earned a PhD in Regional Development Planning from Jawaharlal Nehru University in 1986. Over the years, Dr. Bhattarai has made significant contributions to Nepal's political discourse, public policy, and national development. He continues to remain actively engaged in writing, research, and public intellectual discourse on issues of national and international importance, including governance, economic development, and foreign policy. I'm confident that today's lecture will be insightful, thought-provoking, and intellectually recharging, and it will help deepen our understanding on the challenges and opportunities confronting Nepal's foreign policy and realizing our core national interest. As customary for this lecture series, the views and perspective shared during the lecture are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the official views of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I conclude by once again extending our warm welcome to all our distinguished guests and wish you all an engaging and insightful evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, respected Foreign Secretary, for your thoughtful remarks and for setting the context for this evening's discussion. We would like to welcome Honorable Minister for Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, Mr. Khadagraj Podel, and also Honorable Bikram Timil Sinha, Minister for Information and Communication. It is now my honor to invite Dr. Baburam Bhattarai, former Prime Minister of Nepal, to deliver the keynote lecture on foreign policy of Nepal, navigating geopolitical and geoeconomic trends. Dr. Bhattarai, the floor is yours.
Can a laligurash survive and thrive in between two big rocks? Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Shishir Khanal, Minister of Finance, Dr. Sohani Wagle, and other ministers, secretaries, excellencies, member of parliaments, friends. I have begun my presentation with a question, because it has been central question of Nepal's foreign policy ever since its emergence as a modern state in the mid-18th century. Before elaborating on my argument, let me take a moment to thank the Ministry of External Affairs for providing me this opportunity to share my thoughts at such a crucial juncture in Nepalese history. I am also honored to speak in memory of Professor YADU NATH KHANAL, a doyen of Nepali foreign policy. I would like to share about a personal meeting with Professor Khanal. In 1990, just after the restoration of democracy in Nepal, a program on Nepal-India relations was organized in Delhi, jointly by the Ministry of Foreign External Affairs of India and the Jawaharlal Nehru University, from where I did my doctoral study. I was the youngest participant among the gathering of high-level dignitaries and distinguished scholars from both Nepal and India, including Professor Khanal. As a radical young man, I raised several uncomfortable questions, including the unequal provision of the 1950 Indo-Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship. My remarks caused a big stir among the participants. Incidentally, our return flight that evening was cancelled at the last moment due to a technical snag, and the Nepali delegation was accommodated in a 5-star hotel near the airport. That evening, we had an informal and fun get-together among the members of our delegation. In hushed tones, several of my senior compatriots congratulated me for speaking so courageously during the seminar. Our most senior compatriot, Professor Khanal, simply smile at me but remain silent. Perhaps this quiet composure was one of his defining characteristics, which enabled him to serve successive governments in Nepal, from King Mahendra to later the leaders of the Nepali Congress. Why a Lali Guras and not a Tarul anymore? Now let me return to the question I posed earlier. King Prithviraj Shah, as you all know, had described Nepal as a Tarul or a yam between two boulders. In over 2.5 centuries since then, the metaphor of two rocks has become even more relevant than before, because both China and India, poised to be the new global superpowers, have grown bigger in power and strength, and are likely to grow even bigger still in the decades to come. However, perhaps the metaphor of flower does more justice to describing Nepal today than a Tarul. This is because the kingdom, founded all those years ago, has since then matured into one of the most beautiful countries in the world, with remarkable stories of persistence, resistance and struggles, not just to preserve the country's sovereignty and independence, but also to extend rights, freedom, justice and equality to its people. We all know the history of how Nepal successfully resisted the threat of most powerful British Empire during its early days of formation, saving itself from colonial rule. This meant that by the 1940s, when other non-industrialized countries like Nepal were still struggling for independence from colonial rule, we were already claiming our democratic rights and freedom on par with the most developed industrialized nations. We also need to recognize something important. The country's transformation into a democratic republic laid a strong foundation for social inclusion in the post-2006 period. This new order also opened up new spaces for youth leaders from diverse communities to rise up for change. It is why Nepal is the only country in the world at the moment where a Gen Z revolution has succeeded in bringing youth to power. It was only in Republican Nepal that a young man from Madhesh could rise to become a prime minister. What is most remarkable about Nepal today is our aspirations for progress to be better with every generation, and our history of frequent political resistance and repeated revolutions, which shows that we are a nation, as a nation, do not want merely to survive, not only to survive, but to thrive, overcoming all structural constraints of being landlocked country between two competing global powers. Moreover, our refusal to compromise the country's political independence under extreme pressure and our instinct to fight even the most powerful external threat when needed have made Nepal one of the distinct nations in the world. That's why perhaps the metaphor of a lali grass between two large rocks is more apt for Nepal today than a tarul which described Nepal when it was newly born and had not yet bloomed. Now, I'll come to the main topic of discussion. I have divided my presentation into three parts. First, I will present the key trends of an emerging world order. Then I will provide a brief overview of Nepal's foreign policy. And finally, and most importantly in my opinion, I will share three key proposals for its new strategic vision. Let me begin the main part of my presentation by briefly laying out the key trends of an emerging new world to provide the broader context in which Nepal's current foreign policy is situated. It is important to understand the broad contours of this emerging world order before examining Nepal's position within it. One of the most compelling frameworks for understanding this transformation is Amitabh Acharya's concept of the multiplex world order. Multiplex order. Acharya claims that multiplex world is characterized by a plurality of actors, institutions, norms, and government frameworks operating simultaneously across multiple levels. Drawing on this framework to understand this emerging world order, this paper identifies 4 emerging global trends that will have the most important impact on Nepal's foreign policy. The first is the shift from unipolarity to multipolarity. There is growing consensus among scholars and policymakers that the era of unchallenged US hegemony is ending and that the world is moving towards a multipolar world order characterized by multiple centers of power. Given that the emerging great powers in this multipolar world order are Nepal's immediate neighbors, the implications for us are significant. Nepal will have to carefully recalibrate its foreign policy to navigate the growing global power and influence of both China and India. The second trend is technological competition. Artificial intelligence, cyber capabilities, and semiconductor technology have become central arenas of competition among states aspiring to economic development through technological power. For Nepal, this shifting landscape presents both unprecedented opportunities and significant challenges. Technological advancement offers landlocked countries like Nepal the possibility of transcending the structural constraints imposed by the absence of direct sea access. At the same time, the risk of a deepening divide threatens to leave economically less developed countries further behind. And the third trend is the rise of geoeconomics, particularly after President Donald Trump's re-election in 2024. Consequently, economics is no longer seen as a separate sphere of activity that can be insulated from politics, technology, military affairs, and culture, but as a tool for advancing political power. This means that the line between national security and economic growth has blurred, and Nepal needs to adapt its policies to reflect this emerging entanglement between security and economic issues. Finally, there is the emergence of new transnational crises that demand collective global response, most pressing among which is the climate crisis. This has significant implications for Nepal as one of the countries most vulnerable to the effect of climate change in the lap of the Himalayas. It also means Nepal's foreign policy needs to rise above the confines of the traditional understanding of state sovereignty while seeking collective global solutions to global problems such as climate change. As a former Prime Minister with a long career in revolutionary and practical politics, I don't wish to limit myself to scholarly analysis in these remarks. I want to share insights drawn from long practical experience, which I hope will guide our young leaders who now occupy the decision-making seat. The evolution of Nepal's foreign policy shows that its two principal pillars today are neutrality and the diversification of foreign relations, both serving to balance competing geopolitical influence. According to the latest record of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nepal now maintains diplomatic relations with 183 United Nations member states. Yet, even as Nepal's foreign policy has evolved to respond to emerging challenges and opportunities, there is an urgent need for a new strategic vision grounded in the broad guiding principles enshrined in the Republican Constitution for navigating the rapidly shifting geopolitical currents of the 21st century. Within this context, I would like to present three new proposals for this strategic vision. The first is pragmatic idealism. Following the promulgation of the Constitution in 2005, which provides broad principles for Nepal's international relations, several efforts have been made to develop new frameworks to guide our foreign policy. However, as one young international relations scholar has pointed out, these frameworks have lacked a clear guiding conceptual framework. Therefore, I propose pragmatic idealism to guide the new strategic vision of Nepal's foreign policy. The inspiration for this framework comes principally from the Scandinavian countries, which have used it successfully to balance the pursuit of hardcore national interest with normative commitments. The existing constitution envisions an independent foreign policy that combines the pursuit of core national interest, including the safeguarding of sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence, and dignity, with a normative commitment to world peace. The principles of Panchashil, non-alignment, the United Nations Charter, and international law. To balance the pursuit of national interest with these normative commitments, pragmatic idealism is well suited to guide Nepal's new strategic vision. The ruling Rashtriya Swatantra Party, at its recent national convention, if I have correctly read, has articulated a policy of development diplomacy. This emphasis on economic development as a central goal of foreign policy aligns closely with the approach I advocated and pursued during my premiership. Nepal's historical necessity at this moment is economic development, without which our political independence and sovereignty will remain under threat. A GEOECONOMIC comparison is useful here. Until the 1970s, the economic growth rates of China, India, and Nepal were broadly similar. Following economic reforms in China and India, both countries achieved spectacular economic growth, while Nepal was left behind in this race. Against this background, Nepal's need for economic development is inextricably linked to the effective exercise of its political independence and full sovereignty in practice. As long as we remain economically dependent, we cannot be fully independent in practice. Thus, Nepal needs a pragmatic approach to economic development in order to safeguard its political independence. The example of Finland, which transformed its geopolitical vulnerability into an opportunity for economic growth, offers useful insights. Especially, as you all know, during the Second World War, it fought a war, long war with the then Soviet Union. Then later on, and after the war, it completely followed a different policy, and that's why Finland is where today. I think this could be one lesson for us. A pragmatic foreign policy would require Nepal to remain sensitive to the security concerns of our immediate neighbors while preserving full neutrality between them. If we strengthen our negotiating capacity, we can secure significant economic benefits in return for addressing the security concerns of our neighbors within our territory. Alongside our strategic interest, our normative commitments in foreign policy matter equally in the modern world. Those commitments shape our international community, how international community perceives us, and they provide a foundation for expanding and deepening our relationship with other countries on the basis of shared values. More importantly, several of these commitments are directly instrumental in advancing our national interest. For instance, a rule-based global order is of paramount importance to a country like Nepal, squeezed between two nuclear powers. Our foreign policy should therefore give due priority to these normative commitments in tandem with our core national interest within the overall framework of pragmatic idealism. Now, the second proposal I want to make on this. During my premiership, I proposed the idea of Nepal as a vibrant bridge for the development and economic cooperation of the wider region. I am aware that this is an ambitious vision, mainly because the constraints of Nepal's landlocked geography. One may reasonably ask how a country with no direct access to the sea can serve as a trading link between two economic powers that already trade with each other directly through established maritime routes. Yet our history suggests that this vision is not beyond realization. For centuries, Nepal has served as a dynamic conduit for the exchange of ideas, trade, and culture between the regions to its south and north. Nepal's distinctive geography as an elevated transition zone between the high plateau of Central Asia and the Indian subcontinent has created natural conditions for precisely this kind of connecting role. That's why that there is no reason to hesitate in imagining Nepal as a central bridge between China and Indian subcontinent to the economic benefit of all the three countries. I want to give this vision high emphasis because if realized, it could address one of the central obstacles to our economic prosperity. A key reason Nepal remains among the world's economically least developed countries is because we are dependent on a single country for our trade because of our geopolitical compulsions. If we can take advantage of the growing economic weight of both China and India and convert our geopolitical positions from a constraint into an opportunity, we can resolve this long-standing structural blockage to Nepal's economic development. The first step is to persuade both neighbors through smart diplomacy that Nepal's economic prosperity is in fact a precondition for their own long-term security interests. It is not possible to lay out the specific details of implementation in this presentation for lack of time, but we should start working on it very seriously. Before proposing this vision to our neighbors, Nepal needs to be clear about the strategic advantage it can offer as a neutral bridge, and how it intends to overcome its structural constraints. We also need concrete plans to develop the infrastructure and logistical capacity required to fulfill such a role. After all, we need to secure the trust of both immediate neighbors through smart diplomatic engagement before undertaking this ambitious project. Hence, I would like to urge the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to take the initiative in developing a viable implementation framework, bringing together political leaders across parties, scholars, diplomats, and other relevant experts and stakeholders. The ministry should also draw on the experience of established trading and support such as Switzerland, Singapore, Hong Kong, and recently Dubai. I want to share one exchange that is relevant here. During Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao's visit to Nepal in 2012, while I was the Prime Minister, he warmly praised in our one-on-one meeting my idea of developing Nepal as a vibrant bridge between China and India for shared economic prosperity. I was naturally very happy and thanked him profusely. Then toward the end of our meeting, he added something which really struck me. What he said, China understood and appreciated Nepal's need to maintain good relation with India. This was his word. So I was quite surprised by that remark, because it clearly signaled that China understood Nepal's strategic compulsion to remain closest to India and had no intention of competing for influence in a way that would antagonize India. I asked him to repeat the same message to the leaders, because I had organized a meeting of all party leaders immediately after that meeting, and he did So I believe this was an important lesson for our leaders who sought to strengthen their domestic politics by playing one neighbor against the other. It is unfortunate that few people are still bent upon following this wrong practice in Nepal. I'm very sorry for them. What we need instead is a framework that allows Nepal to act as a vibrant and dynamic link between our two neighbors, both emerging economic superpowers, by leveraging our genuine neutrality facilitated by our unique geography. Now the third, and perhaps in my opinion, something new I am going to propose. In thinking about a new strategic vision, it is important to define the kind of national identity Nepal wishes to project to the broader international community. There are good reasons why Nepal should embrace its identity as a nation of peace. Before explaining this concept, I must highlight that the context and content of a nation of peace vision differ substantially different from King Birendra's zone of peace proposal. In 1975, he proposed during his coronation. A nation of peace is not born out of fear and concerns over regional insecurity. Rather, it is rooted in confidence in Nepal's new republican order, which has strengthened us as a nation. This is the key difference since 1975 and 2026. The Republican Constitution has provided the foundation for greater national unity, addressing substantially, even though not yet fully, the sense of alienation and discrimination felt by various identity groups in Nepal. Framed this way, Nation of Peace vision reflects the country's emerging progress towards sustainable peace, advanced through successive political movements, including the recent youth-led transformation. This vision is also grounded in our foreign policy tradition of a sense of responsibility towards the world. Our past rulers advocated world peace and stood against nuclear weapons, the arms race, colonialism, imperialism, and racism. And Nepal neither produces nor sells arms. Unlike some European countries who pledge peace but produce and sell arms. You know, Nepal's persistent contribution to United Nations peacekeeping mission further demonstrates this commitment of ours towards peace. At a deeper level, the vision draws on our uniquely unbroken history of political independence and on a rich culture that makes Nepal's connection to peace more distinctive than many other countries. We all know Gautam Buddha is a paramount symbol of peace. And we also know you were born in Lumbini and stayed for 29 years in Kapilvastu of Nepal. So naturally, this also provides an added leverage or responsibility for us to strive for world peace, starting with Nepal as a nation of peace. And also, since ancient times, people from around the world, including from India, have traveled to the Himalaya for search of wisdom and peace. This new framework, based on these three key foundations, mean that unlike the zone of peace, the contemporary vision of nation of peace need not be interpreted in geopolitical terms. Earlier that was true. You know the situation during the 70s in South Asia, the birth of Bangladesh and merger of Sikkim with India. That was the external factor. And inside, in Nepal, that time the Nepali Congress has launched armed struggle against the monarchy. So these internal and external factors are playing a role, and King's proposal for zone of peace was not taken kindly, both inside and outside. So this is the key difference now I want to emphasize. In summary, nation of peace reflects Nepal's own aspiration for sustainable peace within the country, achieved through rapid economic progress. In international relations, the notion of peace vision reflects respect for the principle of peaceful existence and the cultivation of friendly relations with all countries. And by neutrality, we mean positive neutrality, marked by a proactive and dynamic approach associated with countries such as Switzerland and Oman, rather than a passive and cautious one. Within this expanded framework, Nepal could aspire to become a leading global voice against war and violence. It could contribute to mediation and peace facilitation during armed conflicts, support countries facing crisis the best of its capacity. This expansive conception of nation of peace, NOP, in turn creates a greater scope for support for the international community, including India, whose backing is essential to realizing this vision, as our past experience with zone of peace has taught us. So for this, I think we need a correct political philosophy as well. So that's why I propose a new concept, which I have termed as scientific humanism. Scientific humanism recognizes the unique potentials of human as the only thinking, we are the only thinking being who can understand and change the world. And this philosophy also recognizes the human qualities for competition and cooperation to create a higher form of civilization. We have learned from the failures of both liberalism, capitalism, the earlier political philosophies, and socialism, communism. So now, a new scientific humanism calls for a new enlightenment that brings liberty, equality, and fraternity together into a single whole, not separately. Liberalism emphasized only liberty, socialism emphasized on equality, and the question of fraternity was left behind. So my concept of proposal for scientific humanism is we need liberty, equality, fraternity as a single whole. I think this philosophy, political philosophy, would be appropriate for peace inside and globally. It could also serve as a guiding philosophy because it is rooted in the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or the world is one family. This is our cultural ethos as well. Identifying this guiding philosophy, however, is only the first step. We need to conduct broad-based consultation across all sections of Nepalese society to forge a national consensus around the nation of peace vision, and at the same time, implementation should remain dynamic rather than rigid, evolving in response to changing domestic and international circumstances. The purpose of this presentation, therefore, has not been to offer a fixed blueprint. I haven't calculated any fixed blueprint. I've just highlighted the broad philosophical concept. And this needs to be elaborated in detail and pursued in a smart, diplomatic way. So friends, I want to conclude my returning to the question I posed in the beginning. Today, in the new Republican order, the question of survival is no longer central to our foreign policy. We are now confident there is no danger to our sovereignty and independence. The key question for Nepal's foreign policy now is about thriving. It is not surviving, it is thriving. About creating a strategic vision to facilitate sustainable economic development through good and smart diplomacy. I want to share one more personal example before I end. In 2012, a summit meeting of non-aligned movement, which I think now is virtually defunct, was organized in Tehran. Before starting the main function, all the leaders, including the prime ministers and presidents, I think more than 100, were gathered in an assembly hall. But for unknown reason, the function started late by almost 2 hours. So then we have plenty of time to interact personally. So I took that opportunity to talk one-on-one with Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and the then Prime Minister, now disgraced Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina. Individually, I talked with both of them. Suddenly, I got that idea, why can't Nepal invite our both neighbors to collaborate to produce and export electricity? So when I put forward this proposal, Sheikh Hasina was very excited. She immediately agreed upon it. So I suggest to her, please do talk to Dr. Manmohan Singh, talk to India, because their understanding is crucial. Then I talked to, again separately with Dr. Manmohan Singh, and in his own style, he also expressed his agreement. And I don't know how it impacted, but almost after a decade, an agreement was reached between the three countries to export Nepal's electricity to Bangladesh. So what I mean to say is, this example shows how diplomacy, which may include taking advantage of opportunities as they open, leveraging trusted relationship and friendship, and pursuing a vision of shared interest, can advance a country's economic interest. Now, once again, going back to the question I raised in the beginning. Only the question of now, the Laligurans is not the question of surviving, it is the question of thriving. Now it is high time for the lali grass to blossom. I believe it can happen. Nevertheless, to fully thrive our foreign policy, should develop a new framework to lift the country out of shadow of its two big neighbors and place it at the center as a linkage for economic prosperity to the benefit of all the three countries. The strategic vision, that's why this strategic vision of vibrant bridge, nation of peace, and pragmatic idealism combined together will provide a roadmap for a new foreign policy of Nepal for the 21st century. And then, before I conclude, I would like to pay my respects to Professor YADU NATH KHANAL. He played a key role in shaping Nepal's foreign policy that safeguards Nepal's political independence during the most challenging times and enhance its stature globally. I hope and I believe our foreign ministry will pursue this tradition of organizing lecture in his honor in future also. And finally, I hope today's presentation can also contribute to a new beginning of reimagining Nepal's foreign policy for the country's economic prosperity so that our sovereignty and independence are fully protected for many centuries to come. We die all one day, but our country Nepal must live forever for our children, for our grandchildren, and for coming generations. With these final thoughts, I conclude my presentation. Thank you all for listening to my reflections. If you have any critique, comments, I'll be there to respond to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable
Yeah.
keynote speaker. This is Ambassador Gulam Sarwar. I'm the SAC Secretary General here. I thank you once again for your excellent presentation on this very contemporary issue, which is very much important for the new government of Nepal. Honorable
Could
keynote
you wait for
speaker-
a moment, please? Could you wait for a moment? Thank you very much, respected keynote speaker, Dr. Bhattarai, for your insightful and thought-provoking presentation. Your reflections on Nepal's foreign policy priorities and the evolving geopolitical and geoeconomic landscape have provided us with much to reflect upon and discuss. We now proceed to the question and answer session. Before opening the floor, may I kindly request participants to keep their questions or comments concise, relevant to today's theme, and directed towards enriching this evening's discussion. There are two ways to participate. First, you may raise your hand, and our colleagues closer to you will hand over microphone to you. Second, you may scan the QR code printed on the reverse side of the program leaflet. Questions received through the QR code in the next 10 minutes will be collected and presented to Dr. Bhattarai. We take 4 questions at a time, and time permitting, we'll proceed for further rounds. The floor is now open. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you once again. Honorable keynote speaker, as you will kindly appreciate that the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, has made tremendous growth in its first 3 decades by adopting its charter and holding 18 summits, and also the consensus-based declarations and agreements like the South Asia Preferential Trade Agreement, South Asian Free Trade Agreement, SAFTA, SAARC Social Charter, and numerous other consensus-based framework, including but not limited to the field of terrorism. SAARC has also created the deep-rooted foundational institution across the region, which includes SAARC Agriculture Center, SAARC Culture Center, SAARC Energy Center, SAARC Tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS Center, SAARC Development Fund, and South Asia University, and so on and so forth. Despite all these strong foundational achievements, SAARC has been experiencing some geopolitical challenges in the recent years that we all agree. Could you kindly share your thoughts as to how the SAARC process can be reignited, especially what role the SAARC current chair Nepal can play under the new leadership to bring new energy in the SAARC for the realization of the cherished goal for the benefit of the 2 billion people of the region? Thank you.
Second question from...
Can you go on? Thank you. This is Leelamani Podel, former Chief Secretary of Government of Nepal. I commend the thoughtful presentation by the Prime Minister, Dr. Bhattarai. While presenting your perspectives, you have highlighted about the changing global order. I perceive that the incumbent global superpower has been receding its influence throughout the world. As I perceived what you have mentioned. If that is the global trend, what is the trend in our Nepal's context? Whether that the influence of global superpower is has been gradually receding, or influence has been further intensified, and then what kinds of implication it will have on Nepal's aspirations as you proposed to be a vibrant bridge between our two neighbors. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Namaste. My name is Chandradev Bhatta. I'm a student of political science. Thank you, Dr. Bhattarai, for enlightening us on Nepal's foreign policy. But sometimes you don't really get enlightened, you get more confused. This happened here primarily because some of the concept that you have floated here made me more confused than clarity. The first one is the metaphor that you have used, the laliguras. I don't really agree with this metaphor. It appears to me that you simply wanted to take a intellectual share in that regard, because the Tarul metaphor is more relevant than Laliguras metaphor, primarily because Laliguras does not grow between two rocks. And it's always the Tarul only. The second point is that you've talked about pragmatic idealism, and at the same time you've also talked about the normative commitment. I think they don't go really together, because pragmatism is pragmatism, and when you want to become a more normative, it doesn't really work, and the foreign policy becomes more disastrous when you try to become a normative. So I think this one also should be taken into consideration. Third point is the idea of the Nepal being a zone of the Nepal, the country of peace. I think this was floated long time back, and you're just rehashing it here. I'm sorry to say it. I have a great respect for you, but I have to point it out. The third point is the multipolarity. I think we missed the point. The very idea of multipolarity was floated by YADU NATH KHANAL long time back when Amitabh Acharya was just in the school. Why don't we read that? It has been well mentioned in Nepal's foreign policy. I can send you the page number. I don't remember it here. But these things I think we should take into consideration. We don't really need to make more confusions. And the most important part is you've said the title is all about geopolitical trends and geoeconomic trends. I think we've really missed these trends because trends are really, they're coming very strongly and they will really make impact in the days to come, including Nepal, and in more than one way. I think that's what we have to discuss. So when we only talk about survival approach, when we see two of our neighbors from the rock perspectives, I don't think that's really going to help us in the days to come. And we have to change the discourse on foreign policy. That's what I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We take one more question. Okay, please.
Thank you very much. This is Paras Gimire, former career ambassador to Burma, Myanmar. Many thanks for your illuminating remarks on the various dimensions of Nepalese foreign policy. Connected with the Dean or Doyen of Nepalese foreign policy, Professor Sardar YADU NATH KHANAL. I have a concerning curiosity, and here it goes. Given Nepal's structural economic reliance on the rich world, the developed North, and its immediate neighbors, India and China, I wonder, how could Kathmandu strategically leverage its developed diplomacy with India, China, and the faraway, distant, the only superpower, America, to secure prosperity while preserving its independence through a non-aligned balancing act in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape, declining international rules-based liberal order, shrinking pool of traditional foreign aid, receding and retreating multilateralism, and putative withdrawal or disengagement from global institutions, all at a rapid pace, much to the discomfort and dismay of the developing world. Your talk on this, please. This was all. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've received 4 questions. I request the respected keynote speaker to kindly respond to those 4 questions.
Thank you all for your queries. Coming to the first question on the shark, here also I like to recount an anecdote. During my premiership, I think that was the second last SAARC summit in Maldives. There, the chairmanship was handed from Maldives to Nepal. So that time, immediately after assuming the chairmanship, we had, I think that the last meeting or so, the Prime Minister of India was on the one side and the Prime Minister of Pakistan were on the other side. So I whispered in the ears of both the leaders, the future of SAARC lies to the future relation of India and Pakistan. So though Nepal in favor of a flourishing SAARC, but its future will depend on the relation between your two countries. I vividly remember unfortunately what happened, you all know. So I am also very pained with the virtual dysfunction of SAARC, but I wouldn't like to rake it up now because still our international relations are governed by the very old rule of so-called power balance theories. So we can't do away with, a country like Nepal can't do away with, we have to be very patient on it. So I hope SAARC won't die. In my understanding, there is a need for SAARC, but as of now, because of the strained relations between the most two big countries in the South Asian region, it has paralyzed. In my understanding, it is just paralyzed. It is not dead. So let's be hopeful. But there are other, like BIMSTEC and other initiatives also are there. So let's keep on working. Let's not lose hope. Nepal, as a well-wisher of the South Asian fraternity, primarily, will work and hope it will revive someday. But till it doesn't happen, let us wait patiently. And this vision which I have presented right now, if it works correctly, the day will come when SAARC will revive again. SAARC and others also we can have. I am not saying only SAARC, BIMSTEC and others also. We can have many multilateral organizations. So that's what I'd like to say on this issue. And Mr. Lilamani Paudel's query about the superpower. So I'm not saying it doesn't have any role. US is still a big power. It will remain for a quite long time, as far as I understand the geopolitics of the world. And there is a big reason, very strong reason, why the US domination will remain for quite some time. Well, we can't rule out, we shouldn't rule out, and I don't personally rule out. But what I am saying is, because of the dynamics of the global order, naturally, I think this Kennedy's book on rise and fall of great powers, I think that law, historical law will apply. So you can't remain a superpower for all the time, you see. So naturally, it has its power, will have to go down when other powers will rise. But as for Nepal, Nepal has had a closest relation with our neighbors, India, China, and the USA. So we wish, for our benefit of our country, we want to maintain good relations with all the countries. But I am not wishing for anybody's decline or rising somebody. It is not in our power also, and it's not good to think that way also, because personally, I am in favor of our age-old saying, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is a one family. I think that should be the ultimate goal. Till we reach then, and we have to work with all these big powers, and Nepal will maintain good relation with all, but you will have to deal more with your neighbors, you see, practically. Practically, you have to deal more with your neighbors. But in the present day world of digital technology, we are talking of Skylink. So that way, even the faraway countries can be sky neighbors, but still, geography matters. So we want to have a good relation with all, especially the big three, India, China, US, and other powers. So that way, Nepal should continue its engagement with all these countries, especially giving more attention to our relation with our neighbors. That is the practical need. That's what I have presented in my paper. And thirdly, Mr. Chandradev Bhatta, I don't think there is contradiction in what contradictory what I said. Lali Gurans, what I said is a Tarul is just in between two boulders. It is just squeeze, you see. In those days, I think the pre-industrial era, our economy was more introverted. So those days you could survive, you see. During, if you see, when the Nepalese modern state was created in the late 18th century, that time the industrial revolution had just started in Europe and other countries. But in Nepal's case, just a centralized state was created. So during the Rana regime, we were totally inward looking, inverted. So we didn't have any foreign links except for the British government which had colonized India. But afterwards, after the 1950s, when India was liberated, and then Nepal also opened up, and our relation with other countries, especially US and others, came into our near and close relations. So in this way, the metaphor of Tarul, I think, was suitable for the inward looking or pre-industrial revolution phase. But the present phase of so-called fourth industrial revolution connects the country, one country with all the countries of the world. For that, the metaphor of Lali Gurash, blossoming between two big boulders and making its own identity, could be more feasible. In that sense, in metaphorically also, only I have presented, I think there is no contradiction in this. And what he take of pragmatism and idealism, also it may sound contradictory, but in real practice, they are two sides of the same coin. You have to be practical, but you have to be very idealistic and theoretical. As a theory and practice, idealism and pragmatism, they are two sides of the same coin. So in that sense, earlier, some people just focused on pragmatism and some just focused on idealism. What I mean to say is, we should have a judicious combination of idealism and pragmatism, and in Nepal's case, you have to be pragmatic also, but unless you have an idealistic goal, then you won't be able to play a role in the 21st century. In that sense, I have coined this term, pragmatic idealism. I think this is not impossible, this is not theoretical or philosophically wrong. I think we are trying to evolve a new philosophy, so in that way, we shouldn't think it otherwise. if I have heard you correctly, we need to change our discourse, you said, isn't it? We need to change the discourse of our foreign policy. Is that what you mean to say? Yes. In my opinion, I have proposed this in this paper. Because after the promulgation of the Republican Constitution in Nepal, the earlier phase of politics, starting from 1950s to 2015, that was the phase of democratic change in Nepal. Once having a political change in the country, the agenda in the country has changed. Now we have to focus on governance and development so that democracy can be really exercised in practice. So that's why this phase demands rethinking of our foreign policy as well. So that's why I propose these ideas, and this is not the only continuation of our old policy. We want to make a new departure in our foreign policy. I think if I have not conveyed it correctly, please read over the paper. I think that will make you clear. If you need me, I am ready to discuss on this in future platforms. Mr. Ghimre's query, sorry, I didn't hear you properly. So I just noted, how could you leverage development diplomacy with all or something? Was this the core point you raised? Yes. So that can be done. You see, it can be done. What I've said is, since the political discourse in Nepal has changed, because personally, I have been pleading for the last 10 years, we have entered into a new phase of history, globally and in Nepal. So that's why we have to change the course of politics. And that's why I started a campaign of alternative politics. And fortunately, with the rise of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party and sweeping the elections and the Gen Z movement, I think Nepal's political ground has drastically shifted. I think some people have this problem to accept this reality. This is the reality. So in that sense, now we have to focus on development diplomacy, and for that, we have to work most closely with our neighbors. Firstly, we have to work closely with our neighbors, then with all the countries of the world, because the days of this digital economy, AI, we can be connected with all the countries of the world. So in that sense, focus on development diplomacy will require us to reach out to all the countries of the world and make friends with all, and especially maintain good relation with our neighbors. I think this is what the need of the hour, and this is what I am trying to explain through this presentation. Thank you. Anything or? Joseph from a defensive terror mindset was striving for. Who? Prakash Dhakal. Mr. Prakash Dhakal. Prakriti Dhakal, PMO Under Secretary. The question is, Dr. Bhattarai, from the perspective of the PMO, your shift from a defensive Tarul mindset to a thriving, proactive Laliguran's framework is highly compelling. You noted that today's geoeconomic trends have completely blurred the line between national security and economic growth. When the executive branch attempts to execute your vision of a vibrant bridge through major transnational transit or energy projects, these initiatives have often viewed by our neighbors through a strict security lens rather than an economic one. As a former Prime Minister, what is your concrete blueprint for the PMO to build the internal institutional capability needed to ensure our development diplomacy is not paralyzed by these external security anxieties? A good question. So what I just I have presented the broad framework in my paper, in my presentation. So we'll have within this broad vision, we'll have to work out various political, diplomatic, economic, and other factors in detail. So the PMO, in our according to our constitution, we are a mixed type of parliamentary democracy. So the PMO exercises the largest, greater responsibility. So PMO can play a coordinating role with all the ministries and focusing on this developmental democracy. I think we should strengthen our capacity first, and then we need to approach to our friends outside the country. So I don't think our friends, especially our neighbors, I would like to, especially our India and China, I hope other friends won't mind it, because somebody the other day, I read one article from Our Excellency Master of China. He has said a close neighbor is better than a friend far away. I think it's quoted by from President Xi Jinping. That is the real, practical, in my sense, understanding. So we'll have to deal more with our friends, and we have to deal more with India. It may sound very unpopular with some friends, because given the geography, given our history, given our open border, and given our 2/3 of economic interaction with India, the first priority we have to give to India. So why I recounted my meeting with a Chinese premier earlier was, even our Chinese friends are very open to it. In that sense, first we should take our closest neighbor India into confidence, then with our friend China, because they also have genuine security concern, and then the superpower US and the other countries. So keeping this in mind, I think the PMO should prioritize and work out that can be done. As a citizen, now I am just an ordinary citizen, I don't now belong to any party, but I sympathize with the new and the alternative political parties and forces. In that sense, I am prepared to play my role, to assist you though any way I can help you, I'll do it. And question by young officer from Mofa. Residing as a Laligurans between two rocks, how can we take advantage of emerging geo-economic trends in South Asia amidst the recent debates over LDC graduation deferrals? Personally, I am not in favor of a graduation deferral. So if you want, psychologically also, this beggar mindset is you remain poor so that you can beg more. I think this mentality we should abandon. We should accept graduation to a developing country, and then we have our resources, we have our other capacities which we can mobilize. So in that sense, this idea of differing from graduating from LDC, I think our friends who are sitting here, I think our finance minister has left or so, I think I hope they will rethink. If I were in your position, I would defer it. First thing. And second thing is geoeconomics. We have to deal more with our southern neighbor first, and then the northern neighbors the second, and other friends third. This is my priority. For the time being, once Nepal becomes a thriving, prosperous country, in that sense, will be a global player. Till that happens, till Nepal is developed as a vibrant bridge between South Asia and East Asia, and before we become a nation of peace and play a global role, we have to be very humble and have good relation with our neighbors and not antagonize our friends far away. We need to work to get for the benefit of our country and maintain good relation with all our friends. I think that should be the approach. That should be my advice to our friends in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you.
As we approach the conclusion of the allotted time, we now bring the Q&A session to a close. Due to time constraints, we have not been able to accommodate all questions. On behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I wish to thank all participants for their thoughtful engagement and valuable contributions. We express our sincere appreciation to respected keynote speaker, Dr. Bhattarai, for generously sharing his perspectives and for engaging so openly with audience. Distinguished guests, it is now my honor to invite the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Shishir Khanal, to deliver his concluding remarks.
Dr. Baburam Bhattarai, former Prime Minister and the keynote speaker, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Member of Parliaments, former Ministers, Chief Secretary, Foreign Secretary, and Secretaries of the Government of Nepal, Excellencies and distinguished guests, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen, namaste and good evening. I'm delighted to address this august gathering and to see distinguished personalities from various walks of life assembled here in this hall for the 5th edition of Professor YADU NATH Khanal lecture series. I take a special pleasure as a Khanal, another Khanal born in Tanahu. This lecture series was established to have thoughtful deliberation on Nepal's foreign policy and to encourage informed discussion on the challenges and opportunities facing our country in changing world. The thoughtful lecture delivered by Dr. Bhattarai, together with the rich discussion that followed, has fully reflected the purpose. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to Dr. Bhattarai for his insightful keynote address. His reflection on the changing geopolitical and geoeconomic landscape have enriched our understanding of the opportunities and constraints of Nepal's foreign policy. I also thank the participants for their thoughtful questions and contributions. Such exchanges reaffirm the importance of informed public discussions on foreign policy and diplomacy. The theme of this year's lecture, Foreign Policy of Nepal, Navigating Geopolitical and Geoeconomic Trends, we thought would be both timely and important one. As Dr. Bhattarai highlighted, the international environment is undergoing profound transformations. Competition among major powers is intensifying. Economic instruments, supply chains, and critical infrastructure increasingly influence international relations. At the same time, emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence and digital economy, are reshaping the global distribution of power and opportunity. For countries like Nepal, these changes present both challenges and opportunities. The multilateral system that has long provided important safeguard is facing growing strain. Yet, new avenues for cooperation, connectivity, technology, and economic partnership are also emerging. Nepal must therefore approach this changing environment with clarity, confidence, and prudence. Our foreign policy should remain firmly anchored in national interest while adapting to evolving realities. In this regard, Professor YADU NATH KHANAL repeatedly reminds us that Nepal's foreign policy cannot be separated from our history, geography, and development realities. He regarded non-alignment not as an abstract doctrine, but as a practical policy shaped by Nepal's unique circumstances and guided by independent judgment. These insights remain highly relevant today. Nepal remains firmly committed to purposes and principles of Charter of United Nations, Panchasila, non-alignment, and peaceful coexistence. These principles continue to provide the foundation of our external relations. At the same time, non-alignment should not be understood as passivity or isolation. As Professor KHANAL argued, it requires active engagement, sound judgment, and the ability to assess international developments from the perspective of Nepal's own national interests. Foreign policy is also inseparable from our domestic realities. Professor KHANAL observed that diplomacy derives credibility from political stability and visible economic progress. A nation projects confidence abroad when it poses confidence at home. Our people today aspire to greater opportunities, development, and prosperity, and our foreign policy must increasingly serve these national aspirations. In this context, the government has placed good governance and rapid economic growth at the center of its priorities. Our citizens, particularly the younger generation, expect results, opportunities, and accountable institutions. Accordingly, our diplomacy must contribute directly to Nepal's economic transformations. So we have focused on effective and result-oriented development diplomacy. Our mission abroad are increasingly being oriented towards economic diplomacy, trade promotion, investment, tourism, technology partnership, and market access. Foreign policy must ultimately serve the welfare, aspiration, and prosperity of our people. Distinguished guests, geopolitics is an enduring reality of Nepal. However, we should avoid viewing every issue exclusively through a geopolitical lens. Excessive caution or narrow interpretation of external developments can sometimes limit our ability to pursue legitimate opportunity for growth and cooperation. In an interconnected world, geography should not be seen merely as a constraint. Properly understood, it can serve as a bridge connecting ideas, markets, people, and opportunities. Our location offers possibilities for connectivity, trade, investment, and regional cooperation. This perspective has driven our recent diplomatic engagements with our neighbors. During my recent visits to India and China, our discussions focused on practical cooperation and mutually beneficial partnerships. With India, we emphasized connectivity, infrastructure, digital cooperation, cross-border payments, educational partnership, and emerging technologies. We also explored cooperation in artificial intelligence and regional language technologies that can benefit our societies. With China, discussions focused on connectivity, energy cooperation, agriculture technology, custom modernization, and infrastructure development under a mutually agreed framework. Our objective is straightforward: to engage all partners on the basis of national need, mutual respect, national priorities, and shared benefits. Nepal's external relations are neither a zero-sum exercise nor a matter of choosing between partners. Rather, our diplomacy seeks balanced and constructive engagement to advance our national interest while maintaining friendly relations with all. The protections of Nepali citizens abroad remains among the government's foremost responsibilities. Millions of Nepalis live and work overseas, contributing to economy of their host countries while also supporting Nepal's economy and society. Their safety, dignity, and welfare are utmost priority of our foreign policy. Recent developments in various regions have demonstrated the vulnerabilities faced by our migrant workers during periods of conflict and instability. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, together with our missions abroad, has therefore strengthened crisis response mechanisms, communication systems, and consular support to ensure that Nepali citizens receive timely assistance when needed. Distinguished guests, Professor YADU NATH KHANAL viewed diplomacy as a serious intellectual endeavor. He believed that foreign policy required study, discipline, experience, and profound understanding of Nepal's historical evolution and geographical realities. He reminded us that foreign policy is a serious and demanding field. It cannot be approached through slogans, emotions, and superficial analysis. Just like Lee Kuan Yew, he also emphasized the effective diplomacy requires sound knowledge, informed judgment, institutional competence, sustained learning, and discipline. His observation that our foreign policy establishment requires both values and competence remains highly relevant today. Equally important was his belief that Nepal must communicate confidently with both its own citizens and the wider world. A nation's image and credibility are important sources of influence. Trust, confidence, and goodwill strengthen economic diplomacy, attract investment, promote tourism, and support our broader national interest. In many respects, Professor KHANAL anticipated what we now describe as public diplomacy. He understood that diplomacy involves not only relations between governments, but also projections of nations' identity, culture, values, aspiration, and capabilities to enhance the image and dignity of the country. Distinguished guests, as we conclude the 5th Professor YADU NATH KHANAL lecture series, we reaffirm our commitment to sustaining this important platform for dialogue and reflection. In future editions, we look forward to welcoming similarly distinguished national and international voices to contribute to Nepal's foreign policy discourse. At a time of growing uncertainty in international affairs, Professor KHANAL's emphasis on clarity, prudence, balance, and national interest remains particularly relevant. His legacy encourages us to think more deeply, understand our own realities more clearly, and engage the world with confidence and wisdom. Let us therefore continue this dialogue not merely as an academic exercise, but also as a collective effort to strengthen Nepal's foreign policy capacity, enhance our national dignity, and advance the interest and aspiration of Nepali people. I once again thank Dr. Bhattarai for his insightful keynote speech, outlining our current geopolitical and geoeconomic situation and ways to capitalize the opportunities with his vision. I hope discussion and deliberation around his vision will continue in the days ahead. I also thank Professor Jayaraj Acharya, expert in the steering committee of this series, for his support, and family members and relatives of late Professor KHANAL for their presence here today. Similarly, I commend the Foreign Secretary, colleague in Public Diplomacy Division, and officials of the Ministry for their dedicated efforts in organizing this program, and media and all participants for their valuable contributions. I'm confident that the ideas and insights that we have gained this evening will enrich our collective understanding and continue to inform our thinking and practice in foreign policy and diplomacy in days ahead. Thank you very much. I wish you a very pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your thoughtful and inspiring remarks. We remain grateful for your leadership, guidance, and continued support in ensuring that this important intellectual platform remains both meaningful and relevant. We now proceed to the presentation of a memento. May I invite the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs and respected keynote speaker, Dr. Bauram Bhattarai, to the stage for the presentation. I would also like to request the respected Foreign Secretary to please join them. Let's give huge round of applause, please. May I request the dignitaries on stage to kindly remain for the group photograph, please. I would like to invite Honorable Minister for Culture and Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Minister for Information and Communication, Honorable Chairperson of the International Relations and Tourism Committee of the Federal Parliament of Nepal, and we also like to welcome you. Madam Hisila Emi, Madam Subha Baskota, she is the daughter of late Professor YADU NATH KHANAL, Professor Dr. Narottam Baskota, son-in-law, and with this, we come to the end of the 5th edition of the Professor YADU NATH KHANAL lecture series. Printed copies of the keynote lecture, if you have not already received one, are available at the registration desk just outside of this hall. The presentation is also available now on the official website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, I would like to request all